Fat Cats Rugby Conversation. My name is Ruben Kihumuro with Edwin Wawiri, and today we have a very, very distinguished guest, I should say. Many people who have been talking to us or sharing their feedback have been saying that they want to hear from the other side. We have been having so many fans, so many players come and talk. But now let us talk to some of the dignitaries. One from the Uganda Rugby Union, Mr. Ramsey Olinga. Ramsey, thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you, and it's good that you guys kept time.
We are trying to fight that Ugandan curse. But while we were actually in the setup of all this, Edwin, you had a couple of interesting stories that you were sharing. I don't know if we can first jump into that to be the icebreaker before we get into anything serious.
Yeah, you are in a Namiliango jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my early memory of Ramsey was the Obi who never used to like singing the anthem. Was it something like that?
Ramsey's an Obi of what?
Was it an Obi of Namiliango?
I think I've spent more years in the memory than you guys combined.
Are you serious?
6 solid years.
Yeah.
I was in Handlon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm just realizing that Namiliango is, Ramsey's a Ngonian. Wow.
Yeah.
You get into the rugby field and they'll tell you that is that Obi of ours who doesn't like our school. He's a ref. So then back to 2010 when 2010 in our year was a little bit a painful year.
Hey, you guys,
we
such
lost,
a disappointment.
Schools Leagues final. We said we can win the sevens. We lost to Smack in sevens. We won one cup at home. I think it was a Coca-Cola sponsored tournament. And then we were like, you know what? Let's get the last dance, East Africa Games. The last team to have won it in Namiliango at the time was the year of 2007, Walakira and Co.
Didn't 2008 win?
No, it didn't. 2007.
Ah.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
I think 2008
So we said,
won.
let's go for East African Games. And then we meet the man himself here, Ramsey. We score a try. I don't know. I think put in touch. One of those tries that could change the game. And having a Ugandan TJ on the side, we expected to say that, no, it's a try. The man stuck to his principles and said, no, you're Ugandans, but you stepped on the line. Your foot was in touch. And it shows you that even as a referee, some things should not bother you, whether sentiment or the like. The man stuck to his guns and said, no. And that is when the name Ramsey stuck in my head.
Unfortunately, I think Namiliango played very well. In the tournament, I think Joseph Aredo was the top player. He did miss a single kick. He fielded all the kicks. He attacked them back. But the Kenyans were just huge. Their forwards were something else. So painful, yes, that Namiliango did not score that try. But unfortunately, we had assessors. We were being assessed, and from that point, I went on to do a lot of test games, so I could have easily stopped referring there if I been not fair to the sides.
Yeah, he stuck to his guns and said no. Referring is about being fair and precise, and he kept to it and said, "Put in touch, no try."
Yeah, but anyway, speaking on that matter, I think Ramsey, you are one of the people that have literally, I should say, done what I can say almost everything in rugby. You've been a ref, you've been a video match assessor, you're in the union, you've been a player, which I don't think many people know. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. Like how did that journey start for you?
Surprisingly, Namiliango was not an easy school. I can assure you that for the 6 years I was there, I didn't come close for even playing for my class team. That's how strong Namiliango was. Best would go to bring water, maybe play interstream, S3 South versus S3 East.
Yes,
it was tough. So it's only when I went to Chamgo University, that's when I met a few chaps who were also obs of Namiliango, and then we began playing. And from there it was quick. I then played for the national sevens team, played for Uganda under 23, and then Pirates, and then unfortunately, 120 session, I was trying to tackle Karugonjo Martin, and he took out my shoulder.
Wow.
A big lad. So I went into full-time refereeing after that and coaching. I also coached Sale as a beach coach in the 19s in 2003, 2004 when we went to Madagascar and to Namibia. So yeah, I've been a coach, I've been a referee, and an administrator, yes, all through.
Yeah, well, just to go back in that whole tackle situation, was it a medical decision that they told you that, okay, you can't continue with rugby, or were you like, these things are hard, let me first focus on something else?
It was medical. I was playing fly-off, and he was, I think by then he was still a center. Center. So it was just a training situation where I tried to stop him on the 5-yard line, and he took me up the try line. If I realized it, shoulder was off. I couldn't play again. I would try and play, and after every tackle, I have to put the shoulder back in and all that. So I told myself I'm not going to go far anymore with them. And back then, it was hard for us players to afford surgery. It was barely unheard of back then. So any injury, you either rest it or you just stop playing.
Wow.
So it was that kind of injury.
Okay, that's interesting. So jumping onto the core of what we have to talk about today. Just to start with this, for quite a while we knew you as the CEO of the Uganda Rugby Union, but now just maybe to clarify, because we have been seeing that position being advertised, what is your current position with the Uganda Rugby Union?
Just to give it a bit of background, CEO has been both commercial and technical.
Okay.
And it's quite a huge ask. Where the union is going now, we need to have a commercial lead who is purely commercial, and then with my background being largely technical, the CEO role was then split to have a commercial aspect and then a technical side.
Yeah.
So right now, CEO didn't have to be a rugby guy; just needs someone who can bring in the funds, manage sponsorship. Hence, that's why it was split. So when it was split, I was offered the chance to take up the CTO role, which I accepted. I really struggled with the commercial aspects of the market generally.
Okay. That's fair, and I think it makes sense for us to head in that direction. It's something that many have hinted on, that we need to have people that are also business oriented. Yes, it's good to have the people who are technical and understand the game, but also from the business point of view, how we are approaching the game. It's been a topsy-turvy year, I should say. So much chaos has been happening, so many unpredictabilities, so many things that are... I should say it's just been one of those rugby, especially on the international scene, it's been one of those very different rugby calendars. We've had the Elgon Cup, which had been scheduled within actually a few days to the game, being cancelled. Then we also had Victoria Cup, just a day to the game, also cancelled. Could you tell us about the story? What really happened there? Because one of the things I always say is I feel like the union needs to communicate a lot more, so that it can control its narrative. We have so many people who, when such things happen, they choose to spread their own narrative, and then that becomes what people believe. Oh, this happened, or maybe they ate money or something. So maybe you should tell us that what really happened. Why is it that we are having countries cancelling on us last minute? And was Zimbabwe's Victoria Cup a contingency emergency plan?
Well, yeah. To start with the Elgon Cup, it's true that Kenya at the last moment decided not to continue with the fixture, and that is because if you recall, Kenya had spent a lot of money in preparing for the Africa Cup.
Yeah.
They spent about 8 weeks in South Africa, and then another 2 weeks in Kenya with the hope that they would then go on to the World Cup. So that would have then freed them up to play Elgon Cup. And I remember how they struggled even to go to France. They did some fundraisings, because Currie Cup is a very cheap venture anyway. So At that point, they are struggled, and they told us it's going to be a very hard ask for them to play Elgon Cup. But then we had hope that I would still play it. But then when they went to France, and then the hard thing about Africa Cup or rapid qualifiers, if you get to the final, you must win it.
Yeah.
If you don't win it, you've dug an even deeper hole, because the repechage is very expensive. So once you get there, if you don't win, so when they didn't win it, they knew now they had to prepare for repechage. So I think they opted to save the resource they can in the tournament, which I will be held in November. So yes, they told us the truth that they are out of funding now. They're focusing on the repechage. So at that point, because the public had not seen their 15th team play at home, of course, even last year we did see them playing at home. Last year was lockdown. The tournament they played here, fans were not in the stadium. So the fans haven't seen the 15th team for 2 years. So we thought would then engage Zimbabwe. And indeed we engaged Zimbabwe, and they had confirmed they would come. But they had mentioned that they are also going to Canada, which is, I think they're traveling tomorrow for another tournament that was pre-arranged, a World Rugby tournament. So they said they would not try and make it, but at that point last Friday, they realized that their passports won't come out on time from South Africa, where the Ghanaian embassy is. So they told us the priority now, because this Victoria Cup was not part of the schedule for them this year.
Yeah.
So we just asked them to come and play, because Kenya couldn't come, but they couldn't get their passports out in time.
Okay, that puts quite some clarity on things. But now to understand going forward, because we need to plan. I feel like we need to even figure out of planning things better. So for next year's Test Rugby, are we going to have Elgon Cup back? Are we also venturing and looking at different options? Maybe also inviting some different countries here, because this in a way showed us that can we really always depend on Elgon Cup happening? Do we have any other plans besides Elgon Cup? Because it seems like the Kenyans have different plans. There are rumors of a tournament that's being worked on in December with other nations, and there's been so much chit chatter going on even on social media among some of the media people from the Kenya side, saying that Uganda right now is not their priority. They're not at the same level of strength, and we do not give them that kind of opposition, that they are looking for better opposition, hence the Curry Cup things, hence the trying to play a lot more of the tier 2 nations. So for us, what are we planning to do in the event that Kenya doesn't deem us worthy anymore?
Obviously, the first priority for us is to play more games. So the first priority for us is to have Victoria Cup up and running again.
Yeah,
that means you play 6 games actually in a year. So we're hoping that this year with Azim coming back, and then interest in Zambia as well, and Kenya would then expand Victoria Cup to have Elgon Cup in a Victoria Cup. So that is still on the cards for us. Of course, the tournament that you alluded to, the one being arranged, we are also part of the discussion. It's a very expensive venture. To have all those travels to SA, Namibia, it's a very expensive venture. But then we are part of the discussion as well. But then those will always be one-off tournaments. So the most permanent fixture can only be Victoria Cup, and then in there have Elgon Cup as a part of Victoria Cup. That is still on the table.
Yeah. Okay. So you said that many of these things, I think one of the common things I've been hearing is many of the ventures that are happening are expensive. There's that monetary aspect to things. You talked about it from Kenya having an expensive venture. How are we preparing ourselves also now going forward that if we need to develop this game, we definitely can't avoid some of these matchups. Yeah, we want the boys to grow and be better, and then the sport to go further. That means we can't avoid the financial bit of it. How are we preparing ourselves to be able to be ready to handle these things. Take, for instance, we also go for, let me say, Rugby Africa Cup, and we go to the repechage, not winning the final. How are we prepared to handle those costs? How are we prepared to handle any costs? Let's say we are given that access to that tournament. So how are we preparing ourselves financially?
I think first thing we need to do is to build a product.
Yeah.
That means like the national 7 cities has gotten for just services from, let me say, 20 million sponsorship a few 7 years ago to now 440 million shillings sponsorship, and it's because of the product.
Yeah.
The teams are playing well. There's the fans want to watch it. So that is technical. How do you build the product? How do we have the coaches trained, referees upskilled, medical guys are up there, and then once the product is there, then it's sellable. Then that's why now the CEO has to come in with the targets to sell the property. And I think it's good that now he's going to have the CEO who's purely commercial. So we'll give him his targets and say, for this year I want to raise 2 billion shillings for the men's 15s team to go and play a tournament in South Africa. But then if there's no product, then there will be no discussion, because we're gonna discuss with Zimbabwe if they feel we don't give them value for that kind of game. And I think the product is actually growing. I think in France, save for the one bad showing against Kenya, the others were pretty much showings. The 7th team, and you saw them down here in April and also in Birmingham. The product is there, so it's actually now sellable. Now, how do we get the guys who can sell their product? That's where we have to go now.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting, because we are coming to that. But we appreciate the clarity that has come from the 15th bit of it, especially from Test Rugby level. And now just to dive a little bit into the local 7s. The 7s that were supposed to start about a month ago, and they were postponed, going to start this weekend. It was supposed to be Mileke 7th starting. But even before we get into all that, Edwin, what's your fondest memory about last year's Mileke 7s? Keeping in mind that this year we don't have a Mileke 7s.
Well, it was just seeing the level of competition, I think, and the sentiment involved, considering the tournament in whose honor we are playing for.
Yeah.
Seeing that picture of Joseph Aredo and his daughter before the final matchup between the teams is something that can survive the ages, and especially the honor of the person you are playing a tournament for. It goes down to show that rugby and values of family and sentiments of family cannot be separated from the game. It shows that rugby families are very important in growth of rugby. I think that's my fondest moment of the Mileke 7s, that it brings the fusion of rugby and family in no other way that any tournament will do. Or I think it's a testament of legacies that families that have involved themselves in rugby have been able to put up. And all we can do as maybe parents who support the game, parents who have children facilitated to play the games, or even who facilitate their children to pay entrance fee to watch the games, should continuously do so, because their efforts or contributions do not go unrecognized, because it helps grow the numbers of the game, have more families. I mean, we have the Barretts, the Farrells in rugby. There was a time the Bands used to play rugby or something like that.
Yeah, the Bands, they still do.
The Savias, we need as many families like that in Ugandan rugby, and we have quite a number here in Uganda. So that's my fondest memory of the Mileke 7s.
Yeah, I think last year I was doing commentary, and the Mileke 7s were really, really exciting, very, very competitive. My fondest memory, if I'm not mistaken, was that clutch moment in, was it the semi-finals or the quarter-finals between Cobs and Heathens, that Joseph Paredo had to see off the Heathens with I think it was a last-minute kick if I'm not mistaken. But that was really,
Yes.
really a brilliant moment.
After the power on power moment.
Yeah, power and power. Where I think that was.
Oh my God!
Funny thing, it was me that said that on commentary,
Yeah.
but I don't remember. All I knew it was Byron Oketayot
And
stooling.
Sebaleba.
Lawrence Sebaleba didn't enjoy Mileke Sevens like we did.
Yes.
But anyway, so this year we do not have any circuit at Legends. Could this be a ripple effect of the constant cancellations from the Elgon Cup to the Victoria Cup, that maybe Legends management feels like they are also losing out a lot? Or was it something that was not in their plan and they had some other things booked? What's the story with that? We have no sevens at Legends, and also the Mileke Cup that was supposed to be this weekend has been changed to the Wakiso Sevens, which is at Kings Park Arena in Boyogere.
Yeah, and we understand where Legends comes from.
Yeah.
They have to, the business that has to make money and then sustain their rugby. So obviously, Elgon Cup, they held all the bookings. They have other bookings that they have. They put them off, and then they also did another booking for the first Mileke 7, and then it was postponed. So then they lost those are all the cancelled bookings. And then of course Victoria Cup. So I think they have reached a point where if there's another booking that is business for them, they're not sure anymore that rugby is going to happen until rugby continuous happens now. So they said they have another booking. I think they have a smart league on a Sunday, and we cannot play only on Saturday. So that means we'll play on Saturday at Legends, and then Sunday we have to move somewhere else again. So they thought it wise, and Mileke opted not to move it anywhere else because Legends is their ground. So because they have no ground, they had to cancel the event. So luckily Kings Park was available and they offered to pick it up, but it's not Mileke Sevens.
Yeah. Maybe if I come in there is that in light of something like this happening, you have it highlights the issue of rugby pitches and facilities that teams can readily use as and when necessary. I think maybe it's important that you also give us a background of the role of the Chief Technical Officer, because I think the aspect of rugby facilities is very key. If I use myself as an example, I started actively following rugby like 2005, 2006. And I think from then, the major pitch that has come up, I think Entebbe was there at the time. I think it's Kings Park. So as a union, what is your aim or your plan in terms of developing as many grounds as possible?
It's going to be hard for the union to get involved in clubs getting grounds. At least in the central here. What we are doing is to work with the minister, and that's why the minister who had just left, Obua, had been very, very instrumental in asking the districts out of other districts in Bali, in Arua and Fort Portal, to try and assist the locally based clubs with their grounds. In Kampala, grounds are purely commercial, and it's not going to happen that the union is going to acquire commercial stadium in Kampala. What we are doing now is through our trustee. One of our trustees of the union is called Prince Wasaja.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's through the kingdom. They're offering us a place where we can develop a stadium.
Oh, that's good.
But then, of course, naturally, for that kind of investment, they will not want us to do something small. It has to be commercially viable place, which has all the rest, hotels, malls, and all that. And right now, what we're doing is it is not a project that we can do as a union. Something that we have to get a different set of people to run it as a separate project aside from rugby. So we hope by the end of the year, the Kingdom will have finalized and signed off, because the Kingdom also goes through the Ghana Land Board. They cannot give it as Kingdom. Land Board. So hopefully end of the year that will have finalized. Then at least we can have a stadium. But I don't know, beyond owning a stadium, I don't think we can then own other small facilities for the clubs. Maybe you can weigh in here.
Yeah, maybe also coming in. Ramsey, what about schools' grounds? We have schools that have lit pitches that can be utilized by the union. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, schools are a safe bet. They offer stability. I mean, the grounds are available. Apart from them having school activities, there's not much commercial competition for them, because they are then enclosed within the school. The only worry has been that some of our rugby partners are alcoholic beverages, so they will not be involved in the school. So developing the ground might then be difficult, post padding and the rest. But luckily that we are developing a relationship again now with the Rwenzori Coca-Cola. If you recall, a few years ago, they were part of the school structure and supporting schools with the goalposts, balls, even kit. So it's good to see that they are back, and then we can now discuss how they can support the schools. The problem that the schools also took a hit for the last 2 years or 3 years. So right now, it's hard to find a school willing to put in time in our sports. But hopefully, after this phase of them catching up with the academics, they can then get back to sports, and then corporate bodies like Rwenzori can then put in some structure for them in their schools. But yes, it's something we have to look into.
Yeah. So we have had that definitely. I think that is a great thing, because Coca-Cola was one of those really, really good things that happened to rugby. I was glad to be part of the people that witnessed and also took part in what was a Coca-Cola Schools championship at the time, and it was something very, very colorful. Anyway, as we drift away from that a little bit and try to see how we can be able to close up this conversation, just to ask, do we still have a rugby calendar? Because of course, understandably with what happened during COVID and us trying to see when we can play, and then the lockdowns coming in, we have, I think for I don't know how long, not even had a Uganda Cup. Now this season we find ourselves in a situation where yet again we have had many postponements. Now the sevens have to come up. We have 7 circuits coming up, which if I'm not mistaken, they'll be ending around October, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, October.
So, where does the Uganda Cup fit in there without also interfering in the start of the league? Keep in mind that in between there, I think teams have to find a way of preparing themselves. So how are we going to do it? How do we still have a rugby calendar, or just winging it?
Well, Ruben, depends on how you look at it. If you sit here where you maybe Warriors comes, you might think there's no calendar. There's a lot of rugby happening, especially regionally. The East is now the most thriving region in terms of amount of rugby and teams being played there.
Yeah.
As per the last event, we had 48 teams playing. That was early this year. And yes, the calendar is there. It has been a bit disrupted at the top. But if you recall, at the launch of the Nile Special sponsorship, which was I think launched on the day they were doing the Africa Sevens dinner to reward the schools. I mean, sort of the teams. Nile Special signed up all adult rugby, so there has to be Uganda Cup as part of that. There have to be regional leagues. All sevens must play, and these are all supported. So, without doubt, that is contractual. It has to happen. What we might struggle with in terms of calendar is actually schools, like I mentioned earlier. They are struggling to get back. But yes, we've just finalized now that we know exactly, after launching yesterday the 7th circuit. Now we know exactly where everything falls in place. Like you said, the 7th ends around October. That is for all regions, and then November to first week of December will be Uganda Cup men and women. So basically the league will start in January like it did this year. So what you need to do right now, I think, is now share that revised fixture for until the end of the year, so that everyone is aligned. Yeah.
Yeah, I think communication is very important, especially with the various stakeholders of the game. But one of the words that has been thrown out a lot amongst conversations, whether it be it in the bar, whether it be it at a rugby ground and people are watching, is systems. The word systems. And many people say that we do not have systems at the moment, talking about the age grade, talking about universities and regional. The reason why maybe there is a bit of a struggle with depth in our player base, why we are no longer having things like the Uganda A, the age grade competitions, the under 23, things like that. So I don't know what your remark is, and I want us to just briefly touch on that and what your thoughts are about that. And do you think the systems are where they should be for the game to keep ascending, or are there any plans that we have not yet been informed of that the union is trying to implement?
You are right on what we're saying about the systems where we are struggling in terms of player pathway, where the players move from this to this. Right now, because of the loss of the schools, we didn't have a structure there, but we took up it's called the centers. Nowadays almost every club has a center, apart from the elite clubs here, but most of them have their own center. At least for those who have grounds, Rams as a center, Eden as a center, Pirates as a center. I mean, in terms of the community players that are play from there. But you're right, between school and university is something we have struggled with, and then we have of course lost more schools in the last 2 years. What we have gained is we have gained the regional schools, but then we have lost the top level schools. And then after that, like we were discussing earlier, a brilliant player like Cheki then has to leave the country after that, because there's not much. I don't know if it's a university issue in terms of standards, not of rugby, but of standards, or it is just that there's not much rugby at that point. This year I've had 2 meetings with the guys called AUS, Association of Uganda University Sports. They've given us a slot for October to revive the university league. We're hoping we can start with the sevens. Also, I don't know if this is largely funding, but there's not much opportunity for Uganda A to play in the region. The only chance we have is for them to play sevens. But that 15 structure, yes, it's an area of a concern and an area that will need help from all the partners. That area between school and then club. What we try to develop is to ensure that, and it might hurt the clubs a bit, if you cannot have a second side or a university side that you're supporting or a school, then you cannot play the Premier Division. It's something we have to stand firm. We have told them the last 2 years. Some of them have been developing those sites, but we shall get to a point where it will be a requirement for them to play up there. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that at least would address many of those things as well. So try to address the financial issues that would help us also facilitate some of those other things. But now, as I think I'm going to go to the last bit of what I wanted to talk about, sevens. Without, let me say, no disrespect to all the gold medal winners at the Commonwealth Games for Uganda, but I think that the Uganda sevens have gotten us as much, like the most traction, the most engagement from the world, from what they did on the pitch to what basically happened off the pitch. The boys were showing a lot of let me say character. You could see the Desire Era and his DJing video that has gone viral. But how are we now going to use that as a sport to basically put ourselves out there, to market ourselves for publicity, to encourage tourism back in Uganda? Maybe how basically what I'm trying to say is, how are we putting ourselves in a position to get ourselves more marketable from what we have gotten from the Uganda sevens?
First of all, we need to keep the product alive. And what has helped the sevens team is a stability. They have had the same management for 2 or 3 cycles, that is 4-year cycles. They are getting comfortable. They know how to phase out the players, how to bring in new players. Other teams were struggling, so the 15th team has had 3 quarters in 3 years. So that stability helps a team confidence, and the coach knows that I have another 4 or 5 years stability. In terms of marketing, because only way we can market the team is through tourism. It's going to be difficult for us to have partners unless it's a partner like NBL who understands the actual value that is not direct value from sales, or because they don't play in Uganda. Luckily they played here this year, but there will be 2 seasons when they don't play around at all. So the key thing is how to market the country, and we did it 4 years ago. I don't know if you remember the jersey they had that had
Visit Uganda.
.com. Unfortunately, that tourism board, I think, was removed, and the new people are still finding their footing. But it's only way we can use that team is to market Uganda, and then hope that then we can get support from the government, and then by extension the players can get something back in a return. But beyond that, locally, unless it's a company that wants equity and not just sales.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that in of Visit Uganda. We noticed that of all the ministries involved, Ministry of Tourism was really ardently following the games and giving updates of scores and updates of photo images of what transpired in the game. And there's a possibility of having tourism ministry on board through their arm, maybe UTB. I think our fans would want to know what would be the perspective alongside the brand Nile Special. There is word moving round, maybe you could clear the air, that there is something of exclusivity of sorts, that even if UTB were to come on board of Ministry of Tourism, there would be some sort of contractual obligations you already have. So is that something that you could give a response to us on?
Yeah, and I mean, the contract we signed with the Nile is quite open, and it's available for all of us to look at. Nile is not sponsoring the men's sevens team. Okay. They are only beer partner. It means we can't have another beer partner in the national sevens team. Okay. But we're allowed to have a title sponsor. If the sevens team just is, it's clean because they have no title sponsor. Okay. And the kind of value they have now, we cannot sell ourselves short. So rather look for something tangible for them. So yeah, Nile has the contract. It's okay. We can get another partner who is not a competitor. Okay. In the same space.
That's wonderful.
Okay. Does the union have a marketing department or marketing team, I should say?
No, we do not. Luckily for us, in the last AGM, we didn't even have a commercial department, even a commercial, right? But luckily, the last AGM allowed us to have a commercial vice president, and with him, he's tried to put up a sponsorship committee and marketing. But then they are all volunteers, really. You cannot ask them for too much of their time. At the HQ, a person close to marketing is Denise, but she also has to do communications, social media, and the rest. So I think with the coming in of a commercial CEO, that is the first start to having that area professionalized commercially. So and I know there's the next plan is to have a marketing manager who's a full time, hopefully before the end of the year.
Okay. I think that would be really great, because that is something that I think we need. I think we all agree on that especially with the strides that the sport is taking, we need to put ourselves in a position where we can communicate and show the world, and also be all inclusive, and just be generally someone who's there solely to lay strategy on how we can be able to have people want to align with the brand that is rugby in Uganda. So I think my last question would be, we are seeing the Uganda Sevens and the Uganda 15s looking almost to be in stark contrast of one another. How are we maybe going to copy and paste what is happening in the Uganda Sevens into the Uganda 15s? Because the Uganda 15s seem to be, from where we see it, a bit disorganized in our opinion. But then the Uganda Sevens look to be the semblance of organization, of preparation for years, and like you say, that they have had a system and coaches that have been with them for 2 cycles. That has not been the case with the 15s. What are we doing to have the 15s also do the same as what's happening in the 7s? Because we're now seeing the results.
I think it's starting now, and it's about us as a union, as a public, to just back the management and give them some time. We should be baying for blood after 1 or 2 years because we have lost to Kenya. That stability. I mean, you give an example of maybe 2 years ago, the same players in the 7s team would be so disciplined, but when they come to the 15s team, you see them typing on social media and saying all these things. But when the 7s team, you don't hear a word from them. So it's the same guys. So let's just back the management. Let's know we have made the right choices for this one. Then allow them to then stabilize the team over a certain amount of time. At this level, it is at this level we're not at a point where the union can then manage the team in terms of day-to-day management. It's a bit difficult for us, so we shouldn't ask for so much from the management. Give them some time. We're not in New Zealand who can fire and Ian Foster. But yes, let us back them up and give them some reasonable time.
Yeah, okay. I think this is the point when we get into the trivia.
Yes.
Do we have any interesting questions for Mr. Ramsey before we let him go?
Where do you see the Uganda Rugby Union in the next 5 to 10 years?
Our strategy for the 4 years. If you remember the strategic plan as was presented to you guys, number 1 was to make rugby the most popular sport with the best fans experience. Popular sport, the best fans experience, and I think we're getting there because the property is growing in terms of technical, and also the fans experience is growing. We saw the Africa Sevens. There are some guys who never left the food court. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
The whole experience.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Is what we have to get. So, and then the ultimate one is to make rugby among the top 3 properties in the country, not sport. So if today I had my 30,000 and I would go to Black and Wines, or is it a rugby event, or is it the meat guy? Which one do I go for? So 1 of all is to have a sport, then 2 is to make it the ultimate fan experience. So that's where I see us getting in the
If you had 100 million shillings right now, which part of Uganda rugby would you focus your investment on?
If I had how much?
100 million Uganda shillings. What part of Ugandan rugby would you invest in right now?
Well, interesting. There are 2 prongs approach. One is to have we keep spending a lot of money in taking the team to Stellenbosch and the rest, and it's because we have no high performance centers here.
Yes.
Is to have that kind of before we went to France, we had to go and talk to FUFA, and luckily they allowed to have our team go and use Njeru because the high performance center. They can all sleep there, the meals and everything. So you can have that high performance center for all our elite teams. So know that are at the top. We have that, and then the key thing for us at the bottom, where you don't have enough players, is just basic equipment. You can't have more than 2 balls in training at the lowest level. We have kids playing without kit, so the motivation then is lacking. The coaches have to train players in phases. Other players are resting. So equipment, and then high performance center.
If you're a sponsor looking to invest into Ugandan rugby, what would you want the union to have in order before you'd invest?
What is really taking us back, and I'm not saying it in a bad faith, is that some of the fans and the people who love the sport are actually taking the sponsors back in how we talk, how we drag the sponsors down into battles, trench warfare. So I think I'd want the union to have, to not put my name out there in a bad way as a sponsor, because they don't come in it for that. So do we have control at that level? Are the clubs all aligned? So that is, I don't know, is that communication or that is whatever?
Publicity and communications. What was your best try from Commonwealth Sevens? Uganda, best try.
Number one try. The first try of the tournament.
The first try.
Commonwealth.
Yes, Commonwealth.
The first one.
First try.
I think it was Kisiga.
Yes. The breakthrough.
Yeah.
And Bush Mwale couldn't get him.
Kisiga looks slow, but I think he's
he
could be the fastest player in that team. He doesn't seem to be running. You don't like Castro, you cannot just see him running.
Yes.
Kisiga is just. And I was talking to my brother the other day, Gabriel. Told me in training, he chased that guy 3 times. There was no one here. Couldn't get him anywhere close. Yes.
Oh.
So anyway, Mr. Ramsey, it was a great experience to have you here. We have, I think, gotten an insight on so many things that I think very many people want to know. Very many times people assume what they want to assume. People think what they want to think. But it's great to always have this relationship between, especially the media and the Uganda Rugby Union, where they can control their own narrative and let the people know that this is actually the true story and not what people are peddling. I think that is one of the things that is going to take away what you said about how many people go on social media and drag maybe the sponsor, drag the union. But if we can have such conversations constantly happening, I think it will be very beneficial to us in getting information and you guys in being able to also making sure that your PR is fine. But I appreciate you being here and for giving the fat cat some
Thank you.
of your very valuable time.
And I'm happy to see Edwin in a different. The last time I saw him was Africa 70, and excitement the whole today.
It was wild. It was wild.
See him in a long sleeve shirt tie.
Yeah, but
I'm a professional in the real life.
Thank you.
yeah, when people see him during the week, they'd be really shocked. They're like, "This is Edwin."
Yeah,
But
serious.
kudos on Rugby Africa Sevens. That was a really good tournament. The rain tried to spoil it on day 2, but still, it was no one wanted to know because we were having so much fun. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your
Yes,
time.
thank you, Ramsey.